Smith, aka the Career Coach, and I'm here today to talk about your resume. So when I made this video the first time, I just had so much content, y'all, that I thought it would be easier to digest by having it into 4 separate videos. So this first video will talk about Resume 101, but definitely reach out and look into those other interviews if you still want to get some more information to help you while updating or creating your very first resume. So again, this one is about Resume 101. It's the first video. The second video is related to sections to include on your resume and more details about those to take them to the next level. The third video is about SMART description. So how to take the descriptions or the bullet points on your resume and take them to a next level to really help you get noticed by recruiters. And the last video are just some resume tips and tricks. So maybe when you're finishing up your resume, or maybe you're hitting some roadblocks, some obstacles, these are some things that you can keep in mind to make sure that you keep your resume solid and you achieve the things that you want. So I do want to remind you guys that I am a career coach. So I help students and young professionals advance their careers, get new job opportunities, etc. So the 3 main services I offer are related to resumes, elevator pitches, and interviewing. And what I do is I work one-on-one with my clients with personalized coaching to really highlight the accomplishments and the things that they have already achieved in order to align with things that companies are looking for to help you get noticed by recruiters, to help you get placed on the top of their candidates list, and for you to get those offers for job opportunities. So that is what I'm here for as a career coach. If you want to get some personalized one-on-one coaching, book an appointment with me on my website at taylorosmith.com. I'm going to put that all into the description. If you have any questions prior to booking an appointment, you can DM me on my Instagram and Twitter, or you can email me. So again, I will put all of that in the description so you guys can reach out to me. All of that being said, let's dive into Resume 101. So there are 6 main things that I want to talk to y'all about today that are related to your resume and things to just kind of keep in mind up front. So the first point is to be clear and concise with your resume. So kind of think of your resume as an essay, I guess, a short essay about you. And you want to make sure that you paint a picture for this recruiter, this interviewer, this reader, whoever is looking at your resume, to really understand what it is that you achieved in all of your different positions within all your leadership, community service. So it's very clear to them. It's not just left to their imagination. So go ahead and add detail to there, and we'll talk about that more in the SMART descriptions video. But in addition to that, you don't want to write a whole novel. Notice I said a short essay. You don't want to just have like your full life story on your resume. You also don't want to just list out a bunch of things because it's taking up valuable space and real estate on your resume. Because you want your resume to be 1 page. Oftentimes I see my clients, they have 2 full pages for their resume, or they have a page and a half, or they have a page and they have like 2 or 3 lines that they just could not squeeze into that 1 page, and so it's left on the second page. And you really want to make sure your resume is 1 page. And the reason I say that is because as a recruiter, I'm really only looking at that first page. If you have a second page, sometimes I might not even realize that, and that might have your most juiciest information there, and it's lost. I didn't see it. Or maybe if it's 2 pages when it's not a pandemic and we're in person, that last page gets lost somewhere around the way. Or for the most part, recruiters look at your resume for about 30 to 60 seconds and can really tell if you have a solid resume or not. Not to say that's the only amount of time they dedicate to that. If they realize you have a solid resume, then they're going to start looking into it a little bit more, and they might dedicate maybe more to 5 minutes, maybe even 10 minutes. It really just depends. But that first impression that you make, that first 30 to 60 seconds, you want to make sure you have a well-formatted resume. It looks nice. It's appealing, but also that it gets to the nitty-gritty really quickly. It gets your point across. So you want to make sure that your resume is clear and concise, and it is 1 page. The only time you should really have 2 pages is if you're on the executive level, or maybe you have 20 plus years experience. But even then, I've helped people with 20 plus years experience consolidate their resume to 1 page. So it is 100% possible. My resume is 1 page. I do not have 20 years experience just yet. And I've also done a lot of things. So if you need some help, you can reach out to a career coach. You can reach out to me, maybe even a mentor, and we can help you get your resume down to 1 page. Maybe you have some stuff on there that's not really relevant anymore that can be removed. There's different things that you can do. So the second thing that I want to talk about is avoiding fluff on your resume. So like I said, some things may not be relevant on your resume anymore, and it may come across as fluff, or some things that just aren't needed at all. And when I say fluff, fluff is basically anything that's listed on your resume that's really not valuable to what you need it to be. So I would say the biggest culprit for taking up room and being fluff is a soft skills section. So I see so many clients have a soft skills section on their resume. And I understand the intent behind it, right? It's a good idea because it says, hey, I'm a proficient in all of these things, or I'm a hard worker, I'm detailed oriented, I'm analytical, I know how to work cross-functionally or collaboratively in the team, and I love that. But honestly, as a recruiter, and I've heard people say this as well, other recruiters with me, and they said, I expect you to kind of already have those skills. If I'm interviewing you, I don't need you to list that in a soft skills section, instead of telling me, show me through some of your descriptions on your bullet points. So again, we'll talk about that in the smart descriptions video, but you can take that soft skills section off and you can plug those into those descriptions you have on your resume. You can plug some of that into your objective, which I'm going to talk about in the sections in your resume video. So there are different things you can do to still highlight those very, very important things, but take that soft skills section off your resume because it is taking up valuable real estate, y'all. Even if you feel like you don't have a lot of experiences, I promise you there are things that you can add into your resume to help make you sound amazing. If you need help with that, reach out to a career coach. All right, so the third thing I want to talk about is making sure your resume is organized and consistent. So you want to make sure that you have a good flow with your resume, right? As you jump to each section. So there's kind of like a general flow that you kind of follow for the most part, or template. Make sure that you follow that. So it's very clear to the recruiter, they're not jumping around to get the information that they need. It's very organized for them. And then also you want to make sure that you are consistent. So maybe one of my descriptions at the top, I worked in a position from May to August, and I write that out just like that. But I have another position where I was there from September to November. Make sure you spell those months out and you don't change it down to sept to nav. I see that all the time where people are inconsistent with their resume, and you want to make sure that you're remaining consistent because this can transpire into the workplace as well. So just go ahead and make sure your resume stays organized and it is consistent. If you do something up here, you need to do that throughout. All right. So the fourth point I want to talk about, I alluded to this a little bit earlier, is to have white space on your resume and make sure that is appealing to the eye. So you don't want your resume to be so overwhelming when you look at it because you decrease the space between some of the descriptions, or instead of having bullet points, you have a paragraph listed, and it's just so much for me to take in. It's just packed in with so much stuff. You want to make sure that you have white space, intentional spaces in between, so it's very clean. It's very easy for me to digest and look at your resume, and it wants me to dive in and to learn more, not look at it and be like, oh, I don't even know where to start. It's so overwhelming. It's a lot. And believe me, I've had that before. I had way too much on my resume. So again, related to relevancy, you want to make sure that you put the most relevant things on your resume and that highlight you and your accomplishments, and you make sure you have some space in there so it's not too overwhelming for the recruiter to, one, digest, but also if they need to write some notes on your resume, they can do that. They have the space. So that is another thing to keep in mind. The fifth item is to proofread your resume. So like I said, think of it as a short essay. You want to make sure that you proofread it to make sure there's not any typos, there's not any grammatical errors, the formatting and the structure is good before you submit this to your teacher, who is your recruiter or your interviewer. So make sure that you proofread your resume in advance, maybe say it out loud, get away from the computer, maybe even print it out and look at it, and you will probably catch those errors. Or get a second opinion, get someone else to look at your resume, get a career coach, get a mentor, get a peer, someone who can look at it and make sure you're not making any mistakes there. If you have any like terminology that other people may not understand, other people can point that out as well. So I talk about that a little bit more in one of my other videos as well, related to smart descriptions. You don't want to have any jargon on there that other people will not understand. Maybe you do and the people who work in your field and industry do, but other people may not understand that. So that goes back to being clear and concise. So people really understand what you did. Don't leave anything to assumption. You got to think of it. Can I explain it to a first grader? If you can, then you can put it on your resume. And lastly, I tell people this all the time. Do not add anything to your resume you do not feel comfortable talking about. So I know that sometimes we feel like we don't have enough on our resumes, or we're really trying to impress someone. So we add these things on here that we kind of know or we've kind of did, but we really couldn't tell you much about it, right? I've had organizations that I was a member of, but I didn't even put on my resume because honestly, if someone asked me a question about it, I didn't have much to say. Hey, I was just a member. I just went to meetings and learned stuff, or I did a couple things, but it's not very impressive compared to other things that I did that I could talk about in more detail. So if you have anything like that, just go ahead and remove it from your resume, or if maybe like one of your technical skills. So I took a C++ class. I'm a chemical engineer by degree. And I went ahead and added that to my resume. And I honestly didn't know that much about C++ as far as retaining it. And I ended up getting a technical interview and being asked all these C++ questions when I could not answer them at all. So immediately after that, I took that off of my resume. But these are some things to keep in mind. Do not add things that you don't feel comfortable talking about, because it's gonna save you a lot of embarrassment, honestly. And it allows you to have more space to talk about the things you are comfortable about and that highlight you and your accomplishments. So that's all I have for this video. I do want to remind you to think of your resume as a cheat sheet. So your test is the career fair or your interview, and your cheat sheet that highlights everything that you've already done, the main ideas. You want to make sure that you review that before you go into those things, before you go into those tests, because about 75 to 80% of the questions they're going to ask you are directly related to your resume or your experiences. So you want to be able to review that in advance so you know exactly what you're talking about when you get into those situations. And they ask you, tell me a little bit more about this thing on your resume. That was interesting. Tell me more about this experience, and you are already ready and set to go. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope y'all learned something. I've got some foundational knowledge as far as setting up your resume. Like I mentioned, check out my other videos in order to learn how to add different sections to your resume, how to improve your descriptions using smart descriptions, and lastly, some final tips and tricks related to your resume. But yeah, I hope you guys learned something. If you have questions, definitely post them in the comments below. If there's anything else you want to see in future, post those in the comments as well. I'm eventually going to talk about your elevator pitch and interviewing and more videos coming up. And make sure you book an appointment with me. Go to my website, taylorosmith.com, and follow me on my socials. So again, thank you guys so much for visiting my channel. Go ahead and like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. All right, bye.